Essen.
Here.
Hauser.
Here.
Salvia.
Here.
Bachman.
Here.
Klauser.
Here.
Harden. Kenjuk.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Stone.
Excellent. If you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all for being here tonight. This is the time where we do public comment. If anybody from the audience has a comment they'd like to bring up, doesn't pertain to the public hearing, that would be great.
Yeah. It's not on the agenda item, so, yeah.
State your name and address. Start us
Jeff
off.
Russell. I'm a member of Albertson LLC. Address is 326 Albertson. And first, I'd like to thank the city administration and the city planners and the members of the planning commission for creating the office hours for reviewing the zoning map after the last meeting. They were really helpful. We had a very productive meeting, and we appreciate the insight and direction as we continue to work towards completing the zoning map amendment process. Secondly, I'd like to ask the administration through the chair, if possible, in referencing our April 30th letter and our statement of conditions, if it is determined a public hearing is needed to consider our proposed statement of conditions as part of the city's current zoning map amendment process, does the Planning Commission this evening have to approve and schedule the public hearing for the next Planning Commission meeting when the zoning map amendment will be on the agenda? Or can the administration notice and set the public hearing on their own? And finally, I'd ask the April 30th letter and statement of conditions be included in the next Planning Commission packet. We thought they went out Thursday and we sent it Wednesday, so our apologies. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. I'll bounce that over to Nick to respond to your request or your point of clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we met Friday, so you're going to get a separate phone call. I'm not even going to say what's going to, I'd rather discuss that. So John Jackson will tell you how the process steps forward. So
okay.
Everything is going to stay on track. I can't tell you the details of one property. I've got to have John do that.
Yeah, no,
so he'll call you tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks very much, everybody.
But we got everything. So we got everything we need from you, and we appreciate that. So
okay, no
we're
problem.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Have a great meeting.
Thank you, Jeff.
On a similar note there, in the meeting minutes, it references a future meeting with the planning consultant and public. Has that been set?
It's already been done.
It's already been held? Okay.
Yes.
Maybe that's what he was referring to.
Yeah, he was there, and then follow-up reports coming to Planning Commission, City Council this week, but his individual request is being handled separately because it's asking for a different path forward, but I'll give an update at the end.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public that'd like to make a comment? No one else?
Chairman Gasson, I do have one person online.
Yes, Rose. No one else here in the audience is stepping up, so you go right ahead and put them in. We hear some audio, but it's not clear. If you're the guest speaking, could you state your name and address, please?
Jane Turner, Parkdale.
Jane Turner.
I have a question about the apartment complex at the foot of Walnut and First Street. I know you took a bond, and there was a time limit. Can somebody tell me how many years it's been and how much longer they have to start that?
We don't generally respond to comments, but I think in this case, Nick, if you'd like to
Sure.
state what you know about that.
Absolutely. So just to clarify, Jane, it's the Randazzo property at Walnut and First, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we met with them last Thursday with their Brownfield folks, so they're ready to go. They had to go through Eagle, they had to go through engineering, they had to go through a lot of steps. They will post the tree bond, a restoration bond as part of the building permit. So we're having a pre-construction meeting next week, which will set this whole thing off, and then we'll give an update to everybody as to what that is once we know what it is. But their site plan is still locked in. They're ready to go. It was a 3-year process with Eagle. for them to get through because they had to do a Lomar and a Clomar and adjust floodways. So they've stayed with it. So they came back to City Council, asked for a brownfield application to be considered. City Council approved that. We went through that process. It was approved, and we're just waiting for the next steps.
Any idea when they're going to start construction?
If I had to guess, I would guess within 60 days.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Anyone else online, Rose?
No one else is online.
Excellent, thank you. We'll move on from public comments to approval of meeting minutes from April 7th. Any commissioner have any comment, question on those, or motion?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting dated April 7, 2025.
Support?
Thank you, we have support and motion. Any questions on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Accepted. Next item is public hearings. We have one public hearing tonight. It is for 203 East University. It's a request for special exception for outdoor dining area as well as payment in lieu of parking. And we'll start that off with Vidya, if you would. I see the applicants in the audience. Vidya, if you'd give your report on that, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Gasson, members of the Commission. The request before you tonight is from Rochester Train Depot to create an outdoor dining area for the existing business that's on the site. The site is located at the northwest corner of University and Water, and it is zoned B1, which is General Business District. If you recollect, the applicant, this project came before you at your December meeting. At that time, there were no plans in your packet. So you set it for a public hearing subject to the applicant providing all the information necessary for a complete site plan package. It's taken a while to work with the applicant to get the information that the Planning Commission needs, but they are before you tonight seeking site plan and special exception approval. The building is a historical landmark that is owned by Depot Plaza Properties LLC, which is part of the Smith Family Trust. With regard to the use, the existing site is used as a retail store selling artisan chocolate and refreshments, and the applicant has noted it is also available for private rentals for special events. So at this time, they're adding an outdoor dining element, and a floor plan that was previously submitted sort of showed a food prep area and some food area on the inside, which would qualify it under our ordinance definitions as a restaurant. So now both restaurants and retail uses are principal permitted uses in the B1 district, and the outdoor dining is a special exception use. With regard to setback standards, the existing building is non-conforming. I will put the site plan up on the screen so the Planning Commission can see. A portion of the building actually extends into the right-of-way for University. So this is an existing legal non-conforming structure, and it's not being altered in any way. The site fronts onto Water Street and University. It's got no dedicated driveways or access. It's going to remain as is. For pedestrian circulation, there are existing sidewalks along both street frontages, and there are sidewalk connections provided to the entrances to this train depot building itself. We just, the applicant did clarify that both of the entrances at Water and University are at grade, so they are both barrier-free, accessible, and ADA compatible. Based on the parking standards for retail and restaurant uses, the site will require a total of 10 parking spaces. They are already grandfathered in for 8 spaces for the retail. The addition of this restaurant kind of space requires 2 additional parking spaces. They are requesting approval of payment in lieu of parking for those 2 spaces. The applicant has noted that typical customers are the ones who park in the municipal parking lots nearby or on-street parking on Main Street, and they just walk downtown and visit the site. So that's how parking is going to be provided for the customers. With regard to dumpster, there is no separate dumpster, but if you look at this area on the rear of the building, there is a raised deck. The applicant plans to keep trash receptacles on there. This is a highly visible corner, so the trash cans are going to be fully visible. So the applicant is adding a wooden screen. The detail of the screen itself is in your packet. It is not a dumpster enclosure per se, so it's not subject to the dumpster enclosure standards. It's basically a 6-foot fence screening type to make sure the trash cans are not visible from the street itself. No facade changes are proposed at this time. If you look at the building pictures, the applicant has provided information on the outdoor dining area pictures, and they have provided images of the building itself, the depot building. As to lighting, there is existing DDA lighting along the street frontages. I'll reduce the size a little bit so it's not quite so big. There is DDA light fixtures, and on the building facade itself, there is gooseneck style light fixtures on the front facade, which is in keeping with the architectural style of the building. With regard to landscaping, if you look at their site plan, the site plan notes that they are going to be planting boxwood shrubs in the center plaza area around it. Boxwoods are, while they stay green, they're not really an attractive shrub and they're very thorny. So our recommendation was to substitute it with a perennial flowering shrub that is more attractive and good for pollination gardens too. So the applicant in their letter to the city did acknowledge the recommendation, and they have noted that new shrubs, flower and mulch will be provided. But the landscape plan note, if you look down here, it still says boxwoods. We just want to make sure that it is going to be perennial shrubs and not boxwoods, just so that the differentiation is clear. The applicant has also noted currently there is a large existing tree in the center here. The tree is going to be removed, and the applicant is going to use this to accommodate a new flagpole and a seasonal Christmas tree with decor. Signage existed. There is signage on the building wall that they're proposing on the facades that is submitted to the administration for sign approval. So we've been working with the applicant for a while on this. So at this time, we believe the plan is in a shape with all the additional details that is required for the Planning Commission to act on it. Our recommendation is for the Planning Commission to grant site plan and special exception approval for the proposed outdoor dining area with associated food service use at the Rochester Train Depot at 203 East University, subject to 3 conditions actually. One is Planning Commission consideration of payment in lieu of 2 parking spaces. The second condition is replacement of the boxwood shrubs with perennial flowering shrubs. And the third condition is the city attorney brought it to my attention that the city currently has an easement across this property to maintain this plaza area. If the applicant is going to be using it for private use, the city attorney recommended that either the easement should be, city council should either release the easement or terminate the easement so that the applicant is responsible for maintaining this area and all the plantings with it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya. Any immediate questions for the planner before I ask the applicant to address questions or the 3 recommendation conditions? Yes.
I have a question. I think this is more for explanation and probably my education, but Vidya, you said it was a legal existing non-conforming structure. And my understanding, and this is where I think I might need clarification, is if something's non-conforming and it remains, the business remains, but it changes ownership, then the non-conforming status can stay, the legal, but this
Yes.
isn't changing ownership, it's changing retail to restaurant. So does it need approval to be a legal existing non-conforming structure? Like, do we need to go through that
No,
process?
a non-conforming structure can add additional uses into the building as long as the uses that are being added on are permitted in the zoning district in which it is located. In this case, the outdoor dining is a special exception use that is permitted, and the restaurant is a principal permitted use. So the non-conforming structure gets all protections. The businesses within it are conforming. So the use of the property can continue, it can change ownership, it can be sold, and another business can come in, it can still continue. The only time the non-conformity of this structure will expire is if it gets burnt to the ground. Then the next structure that is built over here must meet the setback requirements.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And
Thank you, that was a good question. You have
I do
another?
one more question, yeah. I think this is actually for Nick or Jeremy. Can you remind me, because I know we have this one and then we have another payment in lieu coming up, how the city tracks the payment in lieu of parking, and what do we do with the funds again? Does that go back into infrastructure? What do we,
Yeah,
can you
so
remind me?
we have a spreadsheet, and then, actually, I've been working on that. I wanted to give you guys a report on all of them. We have to dig up from like 19 years ago, so there's a couple out there. So I'm pretty close to having that done, but it goes into the parking fund unrestricted. So in this case, anything under 10 spaces, if it's approved, they have to write a check before they get a building permit. Over 10, they can go to city council and ask for a potential payment plan. And then they can pay that over 10 installments. So, but it goes right into, directly into the parking fund, not the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Parking debt.
Okay.
Think-
Parking only.
So it does go back into parking infrastructure?
Parking only.
Parking only, okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Clauser. Commissioner
I just had a
Murphy?
question about the tree that's being removed.
That was mine.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, all right. So I believe it's of, yeah, and not of insignificant size. What is the,
Yep, it's fair. So
Plan.
when Grant first came in, we're like, you get to be the guy that killed the Christmas tree that was here for the last 50 years. So I'll let him answer that question. Legally, it's not a protected tree. It's protected, you have to get a permit, but we can't stop him from removing that. And in fact, I went out there today and the landscaping was done around the building. So what happened there was Mr. Sackmeyer, Mr. Smith owned that property. And when the DDA last year made a formal resolution to absolve themselves of that property because it was going to be an opportunity for Grant to use it for his private business, and they didn't really feel a need for that to be a pocket park. They're gonna put their money elsewhere. So, Mr. Sackmar, rightly so, said, you guys have kinda let this go, because we do have that easement that Attorney Crott talked about. That will go Monday night to city council to be absolved, so that it will be all on the Sackmar group to maintain that property. So, the DDA said, because we didn't maintain it, all we did was trim the bushes, kinda. So they made a deal that, to get out of the long-term lease, that they would remove all the landscaping and then pay for the initial landscaping around the building where we took the bushes out. That was done last week. Grant got it went in today, I believe, so, or yesterday. So that part's done, that part of the landscaping, so, but as far as the tree goes, he'd seek a permit and we would grant it, yeah.
okay. Is there, if a resident wanted to change their landscaping and cut down a large tree
Yep.
that was not protected but otherwise healthy,
Process.
there's a process.
Yeah, so
Is
same
it-
thing, anybody in the city on private property can take down 3 trees that are not landmark trees per calendar year, per 365 days in a row. So this falls under the exemption clause, but you still have to pull a permit. So we track the canopy so that we can do that over a period of time. So he's not asking for anything that anybody else couldn't ask for.
No,
If it
just-
was for, different story.
Yeah.
And actually, we started off there, quite frankly, some of the other trees, and I said, I don't think you want to go there. So he saved the other trees, and we'll let him talk about the Christmas tree.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
If I could comment, that tree's not in good shape. It's actually got a disease called needle cast. And if you were to take a look at the picture that was shown earlier, you can see it in the picture, which indicates it's pretty far advanced. It's going to die within a couple of years anyways.
I concur. When he first came in, you can see it. It's been there a long time. I think that literally was the city's Christmas tree for a long time.
It was.
Yeah.
I remember with my son 20 years ago,
Yeah.
being there when they lit
I
the
think it's
tree.
like 28 years old, if I remember right. So it's had a good life, but Commissioner Genjook's right. It does have needle cast, and it's like a leukemia to trees, so it takes some time, but it won't last too much longer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further before I ask Grant to come up and respond to a couple of the questions and outline any part of the presentation you wish?
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Grant Kosh. It's an absolute pleasure to be standing in front of you today to talk about the Rochester Train Depot in our community. So, met Charles in elementary school at Brewster, and we got into plenty of trouble, but we got through it all. Even all the way through Hart, Adams, and Western Michigan, and then last summer, when I was exploring the train depot idea, I ran into him at the farmer's market with his mom. And for those that may be aware of the building, it has a lot of bay windows that functioned as the original train depot freight distribution, like doors. And one of them was previously used as a storage room, the bay window facing the Christmas Tree Plaza area. And from the beginning, in meeting with the owner of the train depot, I envisioned that space as a theatrical working space of candies or some non-baked goods that be able to conform to food safety in such a small area and provide some entertainment around the holidays at Depot Plaza. So Charles making chocolates was a great idea as a chocolatier studio. Doesn't need much, but a confined sanitary environment is what it needs, and that's what that little 150 square foot room provides. So, yeah, that's part of the process of discovery of use for the train depot and wanting to have an appeal during the week for patrons to come in to visit the space and have something sweet that was here in Rochester that we made ourselves. And then Charles and I have both been working hard in restoring the building and bringing some beauty inside and around it, and want to make it available for a variety of private group needs, whether that be historic mini-series, lectures, or anniversaries, private functions of that sort. So, yeah, happy to answer all questions.
On the release of the easement, is there any part that the applicant has to play in that, or is it all city council? Okay. And then as far as the flowers go, we received the plan here on the table when we arrived.
Sure.
I didn't study it compared to what was in the packet. Is this indicating your willingness to change to the flowers? Is that what this is for?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Okay. I think for those that know me, I'm a man of many hats, and I try and do as many things as I can. And understanding the differences between shrubs, perennials, and annual florals was just something I was working through the process. And so, reading Vidya's letter that was shared with me from Jeremy, I took some time, and I believe a hydrangea bush would be an appropriate perennial to include throughout the building that I've marked on these plans here.
And I assume that Vidya received this as well? Okay. Vidya, is that acceptable to you, or does that fit within what you were thinking in your recommendation?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Chairman?
Does what he's proposing, hydrangea, fit within what
Yes.
you were expecting? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I had a couple of questions, and I'll open it first maybe to the commission. Any questions, Mayor Salvia?
So my question, I think you're calling this Depot Plaza, like where the tree currently is?
I believe that is what it is called.
Okay, so within Depot Plaza, I think this diagram calls for 3 tables. Is that kind of the scope there? Is there any plans for any sort of shade structure there? We're big fans of shade. Shade tends to draw people, they linger, they hang out. Any thoughts around shade in this site plan?
Absolutely, I've got fantastic experience with shade. We ran a great restaurant in Bay Harbor, Michigan, and got to experience the lovely impact of cold air above water in summer and how that creates high velocity winds and the various types of sail shades, umbrellas, and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, certainly none are on the plans, but whether that be a sail shade structure or a hanging sail over those tables, be happy to provide spec sheets on what those are. Would definitely want to make them free of wheelchairs and strollers and make the space accessible.
Good question, that's one of mine as well. When you say sail shade structure, that would require, if I'm understanding what that really means, that would require you come back for an amendment.
Oh, yeah, those would be like a permanent structure with the cables and the triangular shaped shades that
Okay.
don't have an impact on the floor necessarily.
That's what I was envisioning, so that would require an amendment, that would come back through administration to us. To add on to, are we finished with the questions? To add on to that, you show the 3 tables there and only 2 along the building in the white stone infill area. Is that really like Mayor was saying, is that really the scope of what you're thinking outside, or is this gonna look like 5 now and be 10 later?
Really, I'm just trying to make the outside as pleasing for the community as possible. I really have no vision of having reserved dining for depot patrons. And so, I understand as being a member of this community, it's been a public area for the last 30 years, and I intend to keep it a public area for the next. So, there is no envision of having large daily seating outside. What's comfortable and appropriate, I think, is 3 tables around that, Depot Plaza area.
Okay, that's a good explanation. One other thing is in the screening, on the plan, it shows just a 2-legged L in that one corner, which will give you good screening from the west and maybe a little bit north and a little bit southwest. What about from the eastern side? Is there any concern that, I don't know what you're putting there, so I don't know what
Thank
you're
you.
really trying to screen.
Thank you. Really, that screen should extend, as you're noting, to that Water Street side as well.
Okay.
So that entire back half should be screened, will be screened, and have doors to close access to that deck.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add?
No, just what outstanding privilege that it feels to be here before you, to open this building up to the community and make it accessible for everyone to, appreciate our town's foundation and have a nice place that's close to the trail, making bathrooms accessible for people using the farmer's market to come in as a place of refuge, enjoy some landscaping enhancements to the Depot Plaza, and certainly experience artisan bonbons, which I'll be 40 this year and always in the food business and had never had a bonbon until Charles's. And they are quite different than chocolates, just a regular chocolate bar. So excited for the community to have Charles's bonbons as well.
Bonbons.
Gonna have to give it a try.
Yes.
Okay, bringing it back to the commissioners, any questions you have of the applicant or any willingness to move this forward in a motion? We're going to treat it separately, 1, the special exception, and then 2, the payment in lieu of parking. So I'm looking for a motion.
I would make a motion to go forward with the site plan.
Excellent.
I'll support.
And we have support.
Thank you.
Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have a special exception done.
Thank you.
Payment in lieu of parking. Jeremy, did you want to introduce that, or Nick?
Chairman Gasson?
Video?
Chairman Gasson, just wanted to make sure that the special exception approval was subject to the conditions listed in the McKenna letter dated April 25th.
And would that be the 3 you outlined?
Yes.
Okay. We covered those in the conversation just now, but let's just add it to the record that it considers the conditions in the recommendation.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you.
I'm making that comment for all of us. So we have a support, motion and support, and we have an approval. So we're going to move on to the next.
Do we need a public hearing?
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Thank you
I
very
didn't want
much.
to say anything.
You should have kicked me under the table.
No.
I'm going to open up for public hearing at 7:29.
You're the captain.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public have any comment on this item? Anybody online, Rose?
No one's online.
Okay, closed public hearing at 7:30. Now we're back on track. So we'll go to payment in lieu of parking, and that would be through Jeremy, I assume? Or Nick?
Yeah, go ahead. Hello, Commission. So he's asking for 2 spaces in payment in lieu of parking from the switch over from retail to restaurant without alcohol. The outdoor dining comes within, because it is weather permitting outdoor dining, they don't need to add any parking to that parking calculation if it's under 30 seats outside. So that's how we don't add any extra parking for the couple tables that are outside. So that's kind of the gist of the parking ask. It's adjacent to one lot directly behind it that's public parking, and then there's the free lot across the street, and then also a block away from the parking structure on the east side. So I would think that administration think that there's a good amount of parking there to absorb the extra 2 spaces.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just add on, right, so the Firestone lot's 134 spaces free. Across the street, 48 at the, what we call the elevator site, and then the deck's right there also. And they have on-street parking in front of the building. So for 2 spaces, we felt easily not an issue.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anything from the commission questioning for that? Seems like a simple request. Yes, Ms. Sylvia?
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2 parking spaces for parking in lieu for the Rochester Train Depot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have
Support.
Support. Kinzu or? Commissioner Bachman. Okay, any question on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing you at the Rochester Train Depot with some chocolates and share a little bit of our town's history.
Excellent.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Mr. Kosh.
Have a
Appreciate
ribbon
it.
cutting. We love ribbon cuttings.
A little housekeeping, this plan that we received today, will this be made part of the record? Okay. Okay, moving on to the next item is consideration for 706 South Main Street for setting a public hearing for a site plan and payment in lieu of parking. We received some information, preliminary review by the planner, and I'll turn that over to her to give an outline.
Thank you, Planning Commission. I will share the site plan on the screen. The request before you tonight is from Tom Kalaj on behalf of F&P Companies to operate a cocktail lounge on the first floor and office space on the second floor of an existing 2-story building within downtown. You're all familiar with this building. It used to be Smith Jewelers. It is located on the east side of Main Street between West 4th and West University and is zoned Central Business District. Restaurants are principal permitted uses in the Central Business District, and office spaces above the first floor, second floor and above are principal permitted uses. We did a preliminary review and identified some corrections that need to be made and some things that need to be addressed before they come to you again. The site plan just needs a minor note correction. It refers to the site as B1. It is actually CBD. Need to note the width of the sidewalk along Main Street, which is on the left side of your screen, just enough to, and also to note if this entrance door is at grade and if it is barrier-free accessible, because the rear of the building has got multiple steps and is not barrier-free accessible. So we want to make sure that some part of the building is actually ADA compliant. With regard to parking based on the restaurant and office use, the site will require a total of 20 parking spaces. Prior retail use of the main first floor and apartment use of the second floor grandfathered the site in for a total of 10 spaces. The site plan shows 2 spaces in the back here, so that is 12. They are requesting approval of payment in lieu of 8 parking spaces. Now the site backs up right to the east side of this is the municipal parking deck. So you literally have to walk across from the parking deck to reach the site. So public parking is available on the other side itself. We do want to note that both these spaces currently, they are not properly striped. There is yellow striping all over it. If these are designated parking spaces, they need to be properly striped with white striping as is required of all parking spaces. With regard to the proposed facade improvements, the applicant has submitted elevations, which I'll go to the front elevation. Basically, there's only the front elevation. So they are proposing removal of the mansard and wood paneling, addition of new brick face, metal canopy with windows, limestone window surrounds, crown detail, and a centered window design. Now we need In my review letter, you have an image of the building as it currently exists, and this is what is being proposed. We typically prefer when a building comes for downtown review that the applicant present a colored rendering. It gives the Planning Commission a better visual of the building and also helps them ensure its compatibility with the buildings that are immediately around it on either side. So that would be a recommendation for this too. In addition, we also want to note some of the previous projects like this in downtown that have come before the Planning Commission. They have done exploratory demolition behind facades that they ripped off in order to see if there are any historical details on the building that can possibly be restored. So just wanted some clarification from the applicant if they have attempted to remove some of the wood paneling and see what is behind it at this time. Is there anything on the building face itself that could actually be salvaged to present a historic character of the building and sort of go along with the historic nature of the whole of downtown? So we wanted the applicant to provide some information with regard to that. Now, the rear facade of this building, an elevation is required, and currently it is not well maintained. So facade upgrades need to be done to the rear facade. In this case, as I mentioned, it is right across from the municipal parking lot. So somebody accessing the restaurant space is likely to park in the municipal lot and walk right across from the rear entrance of this. So the rear entrance to this particular building is just as important as the front entrance. And as such, some facade improvements need to be made to the rear too. Exterior lighting information is required both for the Main Street facade and for the rear facade of the building in order to see that there is adequate lighting. If there are street light poles in front and or light fixtures in the alley in the back, they need to be identified. But based upon the way the rear of this building is structured with a balcony overhang, illumination in this area will also be required for safety. Currently, if you look at the review letter, my review letter, I have included a photograph of the rear. I'm going to scroll to my letter so you can actually see those images that I'm referring to. So this is the rear of the building. And if you look, there is huge HVAC equipment sitting right here on the back. Once again, very highly visible from the alley and from the municipal parking lot. This equipment needs to be screened. The site plan actually refers to existing. It refers to raised planter boxes on the rear side of the building. These look more like plastic pots to me. Just want to clarify, is the applicant proposing to retain this, or are they proposing to replace this with actual planter boxes, either made of wood or of concrete, to ensure it? If the pots are to be retained, the note needs to be corrected just so we know what's going on. Also, the Main Street facade, based on the new remodel, the front door is inset. So addition of maybe flower pots or something in the front entrance will be an attractive addition to the front facade of the building itself, and is not likely to impede on the public sidewalk, because if you look at the floor plan, the door is recessed and set within. A note needs to be added regarding proposed method of trash removal and wall signage. Provided all of the information that we have requested, including addressing the rear facade of the building, is addressed, our recommendation is for the Planning Commission to schedule this project for a public hearing and consideration of site plan approval at your next available agenda. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Vidya. Are there any questions, immediate questions from the commissioners to Vidya? Yes, Mr. Penzo?
Well, I don't know if this is really directed directly to Vidya, but there is a discrepancy where Vidya says they are in need of 8 spots, and then in Jeremy's cover letter, he says there's a need of 11. So,
Yeah, there's a little cleanup that needs to be done between the two of those. Even in the letter, I think there's a couple confusion points when it's specifically talking about the parking space count. So we'll definitely cover that before we get to the next public hearing meeting. But thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions before we hear from the applicant?
This is more for the city manager, but go ahead, Nick, please.
So I might add, so a couple things. So they had submitted the plans before they knew they had to count the spaces for the apartment. So we'll get that straightened out, absolutely. But I want you to know that we we took seriously a few months ago when we talked about pay in lieu of. So some things, once they get to a threshold, we start wondering, what is that? 2, we felt not, because we had 2 parking spots. This, we feel yes. So Jeremy and I talked about this morning, we will do a parking study. We'll do 2 weeks, do it 5 times a day or whatever, however we did that, weekends, so they know and we know what's in that deck. Obviously, they have on-street parking, adjacent parking, on the side street, but in that deck, we'll have all those numbers. So that will come in the report from us, so you all have that information to know that we're not stressing that part out, that side of the parking system out. So that will come with it absolutely for sure.
Excellent, that'll be very helpful.
On that same point, two questions. Will the parking decision, strike that, will the hours of operation of the cocktail lounge be taken into consideration? Because I'm hoping it's not open at 9 o'clock in the morning.
It would not. So
Okay.
that will be, yes.
All right, and then the second part is, and this might be a general question, not necessarily related to planning, but do you know how many liquor licenses the city has? Is this putting us at the top of the limit here, or?
No, so the city has all of our, if I may, the city has quota licenses that we get. I think it's 11. I think we might have got one more at the last census, so it's 12 or 13. So all of those have been taken for decades. So the way the state of Michigan works is if you buy a Class C with permission from your executive body, you can let them transfer in. So you would have to go buy a Class C, come to city council, ask to transfer that in. It can come from anywhere in the state of Michigan. So that's in the conversation with them, that's what they're going to do. So we don't have a limit. We could say no. We could say there's too many, we don't want any. Absolutely, the city has the right to turn down the transfer.
And I ask just because I know we've got a lot of cocktail bars opening up in the city, and I'm welcome to all businesses, but there's sometimes a saturation point sometimes. That's just me speaking personally on this
And
issue.
I'm sure, who's Peter? Who's here? There they are. When they come up, they can tell, we had quite a robust meeting, I would say, with their whole team, and we talked about that. We said, we see Smith Jewelers, we were excited about that. They also, the family purchased Soul Sisters. So the thought was, first was easier to put it on that side of the street, the deck's right behind there. There's 4 bars in that block. So we said, and asked for a bigger pay in lieu on that property. So it's like, I don't know about that. And we talked about, why would you want to put another cocktail establishment in town with some of the new ones we've got between the Hemingway and Jeremy knows them all because he's a young guy, so. Downstairs,
Boss Barber.
You get the Boss.
yeah, Boss Barber, yeah, Eastman, things like that. So we talked about that, and they'll talk to you about their concept is something we don't have in town, which I think it's pretty exciting, actually, the concept of what they're doing. So we did have that discussion. Christy and I both talked to her. Jeremy was in the meeting. We all, fire chief, police chief, we talked about, we don't want to saturate ourselves. We don't want somebody to lose for somebody else to win, right? So I think they can give you their compelling story on what they're looking for here.
And to be clear, I'm all for the rehabilitation of the structure. I think the general look is very nice, and do the front, do the back, all that. Those are things that go through my calculus. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything further from the commissioners before I ask the applicant to come up?
I have
I'm sorry,
just
Commissioner Murphy?
Pardon me, I think we had talked about before, site plans coming that were not complete. And so how do they come next time with everything, and then we consider it at that time?
Yeah, so at this stage, we're going through the initial review, and we're pointing out things we need to have to really do a public hearing and review it.
Okay.
So this is a chance for them to hear our
Okay, so
initial comments.
This is where we are now, and
Yeah,
then,
so if it
that's
comes
okay.
back the next
Thank
time
you.
and the planner reviews it and it's not up to snuff, she won't request it to be put on the agenda. It'll wait till it gets ready,
super.
so.
Yeah, and if I may, we do our best to get as much as we can. Some of it becomes philosophical, and some doesn't. So if that threshold isn't, Commissioner Gasson is very strict about that. So we make sure we don't come here and it didn't even look close to this good when it came in. So again, we're not dealing with very experienced developers lately. It's like ma and pa town, and that's okay. So, but it's not Vidia's job or our job to design their work for them. So they hire professional architects, and we work them through the plan. But we felt, again, minor enough for Vidia, would say it's not, many have not made it through to even the first scheduling meeting, so. And we're trying to be as business friendly as we can, but also be respectful of everybody's time.
Thank you.
Excellent. So this would be a good time for the applicant, if they're in the audience, to come up, and I'd like to hear a little bit about what your concept is. Nick kind of alluded to it's interesting and exciting, so if it's out of the ordinary, we definitely want to know what you're doing.
Yep, Eric Heider, 44045 Gratiot, the architect. Oh, Keith. And representing Tom and Peter Claus, the owners who just bought the building recently. So we looked at the comments, the 10 comments, and we will address all of those. Half of them, what I did bring is, something so you can kind of pass out any colored rendering, materials of the building, signage, the lighting, so that's been addressed to there, which we'll add on for the next planning commission. In lieu of the landscaping, we are going to replace what's already there with new kind of wood planter boxes and materials in that respect. We'll screen the back rooftop unit that's there. We're going to kind of keep the rear as is, but we're going to update it with a new kind of, maybe probably a glass railing in the back to kind of bring it up into the front facade that we are doing. We did remove part of the paneling on the front, and we are going to remove all the brick because there's not really too much historical aspect, because there's been about 5 or 6 different layers of paint and other details on that existing brick, so it's not in really good shape. So that's why we're going to replace the whole facade with a new brick and kind of do a symmetrical kind of aspect to the front, which is more all glass. There were 2 existing units, residential units. We're going to remove those, and it's going to be a private office for the cocktail lounge below. Okay? And so for the business itself, I'll have Tom talk about the specialty of this cocktail lounge.
Well, before we hear about that, I want to go back to what you were talking about, the brick condition, that you did some exploratory.
Yeah, they
And you
did some
mentioned
exploring
a lot of.
by removing the paneling, and found out like a lot of it has like 3 or 4 different coats of paint. Some of the brick is not in good condition. There's not really a lot of historical aspect that's kind of really worth saving. Or if we try to remove all of the paint, on what would happen to the brick itself if it's going to break up and collapse.
So is the paint the big deterrent, or is it the condition of the masonry?
It's a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Okay.
So it is a soft brick. So if we remove all the paint, it might kind of disrupt the structural integrity of that brick.
Okay.
So unfortunately. So.
Thank you.
But we are, one last thing, we are going to replace all the windows, as you can see, with new windows on the second floor and on the main structure. So I'll leave it up to Tom.
Okay, yep, hi, everybody. So
Tom,
pretty much.
Tom, can you give state your name and address,
Tom
please?
Collage, address is 300 Camelot Way. Business address is 406 South Main Street for this building. All right, so as far as the cocktail lounge business plan goes, is we wanted to more so introduce like a English style manor type vibe to the city, something a little bit different. We wanted to bring in like craft cocktails, additive free, organic as well. Something more so of like a modern speakeasy, but not so much of a speakeasy, more of like a classy type old English lounge. Long story short.
Cheers.
Sorry?
The movie, the TV show Cheers, we had talked about.
There you go.
That look.
There you go. Yeah, pretty much, yep.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? There were 11 items on the report, and when you first approached, you said you're going to address them all.
Yes.
So we'll look to see that when we get the
And some of those I
resubmittal.
Yeah.
And some you did address, yes.
Yep.
But all of those and any others that you hear from, one that the planner brought up was about accessibility at the front. And I know when we sidewalk, the floor line is hard to deal with, but it's really about the approach to the door and appropriate.
It will be accessible. Since we inset it, we're going to ramp it just slightly. There's only 1.5 inch difference between the existing sidewalk and the finished floor of tiers. So
Fantastic.
but since we're going to inset it, it's going to give us that little ramp to make it 100% ADA compliant. Because
Fantastic.
it can, of course, since the back goes down almost 3.5 feet, that's, that's going to stay as is, but it will be accessible.
Okay. Commissioners?
Yep.
Mayor Salvia?
Yep. So I'm wondering if you have explored any of the historic uses of this location. You know, we love our history in Rochester, and I love a freshening and a upkeep of this particular building. But I'm just, and I like the brick look, but just would like to double check if there's any historic intent, whether the use or reuse of, some of that facade that's there. How is it blending in with the buildings that are around it? Do you have any information regarding that?
Not as a bit, but we can look into that.
We can get them to Pat McKay.
Yeah, that would be my question. Have you spoken with Pat McKay? And,
We can definitely look into that.
and there's no thought to keep it residential up
No,
above?
as of right now, no.
I would love more residential on
I know,
Main Street.
I know.
So I understand. It's a premium, I would think.
Anything further you want to add to it so they can be prepared for the next submittal? Yes, Commissioner Clauser.
Just adding on to what Mayor Salvia said, if there's a way to bring in more sustainable touches too, you mentioned organic and no additives, but if there's maybe energy efficient lighting or recycled materials, which I think is what Mayor Salvia was saying too, I would support that too. I think it's something to consider, especially given the
We can look at it too, absolutely,
theme you're going for.
for sure.
Okay, and you've heard some of our thoughts, and you certainly have what the planners prepared. We'll look forward to seeing you sometime soon.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, what we need to do is accept this to set for a public hearing in a future meeting. Do we have a motion for that?
I will make a motion to set this for public hearing for site plan approval, facade change, and payment in lieu at the next available meeting, or the next meeting to be scheduled by the city. Yep.
Support. And support. Any question on the motion? Roll call.
Gasson,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Clauser,
Yes.
Kenju,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Great, see you soon, thank you.
Thank you very much. Miscellaneous, anything on the commission level before I hand it off to administration? Commissioner Clauser?
I was, in regards to the parking in lieu of, if I could make a suggestion, would it be possible to invite maybe the parking committee along with the city to, kind of in combination, give a report out at an upcoming planning commission meeting of like, maybe the, how parking's tracked, what are some of our priorities are with parking. I think it's just good for all of us to stay aligned with like the long-term parking strategy, especially given, how much we're supporting growth and development downtown.
Yeah, absolutely, if I may, Mr. Chairman. So we're having a PAC meeting. We thought we were going to have it tonight, this week, but it's 2 weeks, I think. So we picked. Do we set?
Early June.
Yeah, that's right, early June, so we can get everybody there. And that will result in them coming forward with the recommendation at that time. So agree, we committed to that before that. We all need to get on the same page.
Yeah.
They're just a recommending body. This is the body that really matters, but we're going to work with them and show them all and we just got all of our new software tracking all up, going down the parking passes, collecting back taxes or back fines. All that data is now functional as of last Friday, actually. So we should have a good meeting in early June, and then we'll bring it forward to the commission and the city council too. So.
And
Commissioner Murphy?
just related to that, back when we were talking about the establishment where Moon River was, and isn't there a way with the cards? Like, doesn't the parking garage automatically tell?
Oh, we have
you?
all the data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're on street, you have to break it down by zone, so that's a little bit different. So we go out and physically do that for right now. Until they get their head around this whole parking system, it's pretty new. The deck's easy. We can go
Okay.
minute by minute, literally.
Okay.
The meters, I think Chief George talked to a group that sometimes they don't work if they don't get pulled up. Every 5 days, they go dead, the batteries go dead. So we feel strongly to make sure you get accurate data that we'll do an on-street physical meter part at this point. It's not that hard. There's not that many. The alley's got some adjacent to the deck, Main Street, side street, but the deck's easy to get.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Commissioner Clouser, did I cut you off a minute?
Yeah, but that's,
apologize.
I have questions on the zoning map, and I think, Nick, you're going to give an update, so maybe I'll hold.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gasson.
Anything else on this side?
Two questions. One is, can you give us an update on the brownstones on Main Street just north of Ferndale, please?
Yep. So, nothing's changed other than, put this nicely, so, Greg's good, Greg Schneider is the operator. He ran into difficulties, and then I personally kind of lost patience with it. I take my dog to the groomer there every Wednesday, and Kathy points across the street like, come on. And everybody's been very patient there. So last fall, we made him fill in the holes, grade it. Quite frankly, last Wednesday, when I picked up Bailey, he's kind of sneaking outside the dumpster enclosure. There's some pipes and some stones, like, get that off the site. We want that site clean and seeded until you're ready to dig the next hole. From Greg, once he sells one more unit, which he's got one, I think, sold, one under contract, that will trigger his financing to let him dig. And then he's going to dig all three of the next buildings at the same time. So, but if he doesn't, we're very cognizant of that, and we don't want any more disruption. He has to repay that alley. So if he's not going to build for 2 years, we're going to have him repay the alley now to match the grade to the garages. So the residents around there have been very patient. He's taken a lot of good steps, but we need him to keep it clean, and it can't be temporary.
And if I have one more question, Ms. Turner brought up the Brandazzo property there. Is there any update on the other developments that are just south of that?
Yes, so Mr. Locherko was
Yes.
the lead on two of them. 251 diversion was the big one with the pond and everything. That is the second one to go, but the first one, which was 210 diversion,
Yeah.
the condos. So after he did all of this work, he came in. It's kind of Joey, but it's like, I want my patio sticking out further, crossing the property line. And in his mind, that was minor. We got it to Vidya. Vidya said, it's not minor. You're making a lot of changes. You have to go back to the planning commission, either build what you were approved for or come back to the planning commission. Vidya, I think I'm speaking correctly for you. So he's been instructed, here's what you need to do to come back. If he does, great. If he doesn't, he can pull a building permit.
Okay. All right. That's all I got. Thank you for.
Excellent. Anything else? Then, anything from administration?
Yeah, so, Mr. Jackson had the patience of Job. It was great. We had people, we try to do 15-minute increments for the hours with the planner. So everybody was very mindful, of the time kind of, we got backed up, but John stayed until it was done. So everybody that wanted to come in, came in. So whether you had interest in the property or not, we tried to advertise it if you have interest in the property so that the people would have a chance to talk about their own property. We already knew how people felt about Albertson, and we know about how the Assistance League feels on South Street. But John still accepted those appointments and had dialogue with them. So we have a list of, I think there's, Vidya, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 7 to 11 properties that staff through that discovery, and then on our own, we dug into it a little bit deeper because when Beck and Rader did this in 2022, they did their best to match existing land use with future needs. And that's almost 3.5 years ago. So we looked at it and said, I'll give you for instance, they had called for, on the north side of University from Pine, right where the cheese lady is, all the way to the west to be office. Right now, it's B1, which allowed for office. But understandably, if you look at those places, they're all office, so it made sense, except for the cheese lady, because that's always had retail in there. When Mike, who bought the property, wanting to turn it into a bookstore when the cheese lady moves on to another spot in town, he came in and was like, can I sell in an office district? The answer is no retail. So we had to relook at that. We sat down with Vidya and John. We spent hours the end of last week together, went over each property. For instance, we looked at a district that would make sense there, like downtown Edge 1, instead of office. So it gives a little bit more flexibility there. Fred Toma on the BP station came in and he's like, so I saw that in CBD, you can't do gas stations again. He said, so I'm good forever. I understand that. But Fred's a dreamer. So Fred's like, there's one in Farmington Hills, one in out by you, Vidya, someplace off Line or something. There are 2-story gas stations with something above
Sheets.
them. Yeah, not Sheets, no, not that. No, it's like an office building above where you take the building and you move it up it's almost like the mobile.
The one over on Adams
yeah.
and
Yeah,
University
something
there.
like that.
They
Adams, the
started.
liquor
beer
store.
cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was looking at, hey, maybe I'd move the building up on Main Street and have a Main Street frontage, and now I couldn't touch it, right, because I'm a gas station, and if he demolished more than 51% of it, then he couldn't. So we talked about that, but the saving grace for a lot of these they're in a special project area. That gives the latitude for the planning commission to make judgment based on our special project standards to evaluate things that are a little out of the ordinary versus just hammering the zoning and sticking to something you really don't want. So I think, again, I think John will say, and you're gonna get a report on every property and what the results were of the discussion and then what the staff's recommendation to planning commission will be. And we're scheduling it for the June meeting. So we're gonna get the notice out for a public hearing. We're gonna send each individual person that is actually being rezoned. We did it once, Jeremy went through 385 letters, I think. They're gonna get another one saying officially, there's another public hearing. And the planning commission passes that on to city council. We're gonna do it again and send them out again if there's any changes at this body to go to the city council. So there'll be plenty of discussion on that. Mr. Russell's, we talked about details. We are not gonna slow the process down for one property, but we're going to treat it fairly. So he's made his case. We have our attorneys and our planners working with his folks to come up with the best way to handle that. We're gonna make a recommendation on the underlying zoning, the staff is. So you'll see in June when it comes out. But he'll be afforded the same, consideration as everybody else. But overall, it was good. We didn't get any surprises, not one, to be honest with you. So, because we had looked at Bashir down on South Street, he's like, I have a collision shop, and I own the property next to me. I'd like to build another one. And we said, to be honest with you, the planning commission in 2022 and the city council said, we appreciate that you own the land, but you do not have a second collision shop there. We think there's a higher and best use than a collision shop there. So under the new zoning classification, it would not allow that. So, but again, it's a special project area. And there's a 500-year floodplain there that back in 2022, the DEQ and Eagle allowed things to be built in the 500-year floodplains, like parking, you can elevate it, do all these different things. They've changed that tune in the last year. They don't want anything in a 500-year floodplain. So whether he liked it or not, it wasn't us, but Eagle said you can only come up within 35 feet of the road. So a lot of different things. We're educating the people that own those properties, and I think that felt good about it. And we talked to Bill Byers at the collision shop. A lot of the guys on the north side, the south side of the river, north side of South Street, they had concerns, but most importantly, they knew they could continue doing what they're doing. Vidya talked about that we wanted that campus style, which Tom Kemp came here and got that approved. So we have value. There's value in industrial and light industrial. I work with the planner in Rochester Hills a lot, and Sarah's number one worry is the attack on their industrial base. Because there's still a need for electrical contractors, warehousing, things like that, that will pay less per rent. I'll make up some numbers, $13 to $17 a square foot for industrial use versus $28 to $32 for retail. So if you get to put Art Van down on South Street and only pay $12 a square foot, when you shouldn't be doing that because Heritage Gallery's got to pay $32, you got to be careful what you're doing. We want to preserve our light industrial and our tech land. So again, that's a discussion that will come up at the planning commission meeting. You might think differently, and you'll have that right to engage us in that conversation. So I don't know that we'll get through it in one meeting in June. And we could certainly have extra meetings if we need to, but we'll be prepared. And John's got a great report that you're going to get it probably in a week or so, way in advance of that meeting, so you can see what the results of all those meetings were.
Excellent. Yes.
Question to that. Mr. Bandit, I think you've been at some of the meetings where the Assistance League has come and talked to us, and I think they've all talked to us individually, and I know City Council. At that June meeting, is there going to be some type of remedy that will be presented in order for them to get the relief that they have been seeking?
So if I had my way initially, the remedy would be you bought the wrong building because we already told them that, but we're not going that route. What we're going to do is we have three options.
Okay.
So one of the options is we have to change the entire industrial district to allow retail against the people in Rochester Hills that aren't set up that way. That's one. Number two is there was a clause, this gets detailed, and I know I sent it to.
I know, I saw it.
Yeah, you saw it. That, back in the day when we owned the Clothes Closet was a nonprofit, and they were trying to give out their product through food stamps, through these tokens, trying to find a way to sell their products. So they couldn't because they're in I-2. Now, again, the Assistance League's in I-1, different zoning district. I-2, allowed the planning commission to make a special exception based on a whole set of regulations about how could you find a way to, for some compensatory, I think that was the word, fashion, how could they get rid of their products to the people? So it was supposed to be tokens, vouchers, things like that. They got attorneys involved after it started and said, it says some form of compensation. So they felt, it doesn't say you can't do money. We tried to get the planning commission to say cash doesn't count. That's a retail operation. So they've kind of pushed that envelope. In 2022, when we came back in with the new 2 industrial districts, we removed that language on purpose so we didn't have to face this again. So second remedy will be planning commission could put that back into the language in that new zoning district that would allow for planning commission to use its discretion to determine if you have enough parking. Do you want to have some form of retail there? So that's the second one. And then the third one is just, again, rewrite the whole zoning classification and say, do whatever you want down there if you want to do retail. So you guys will have 3 options to pick from, and we'll leave it at that.
So tagging on that, so at the public hearing, we can change the language, even though we've already approved the
Yeah,
language?
you probably won't do it that night, but you would make a suggestion to say, we are requesting that new language comes back, Vidya, correct me if I'm wrong, and then we would have it again, notice it as a public hearing to change the language in the district, any district, not just that one.
And then it would go to city
it would
council,
go to city
presuming
It's a normal ordinance.
right.
So, and then I guess there's kind of a 3D, if you will. We told them, everything goes through like it is. We just leave what's proposed. Then just like we do on other things like side entry garages, we would come back, a separate request would come in front of the planning commission and say, hey, we want you to relook at the language in that district, not trying to hold up the whole zoning ordinance and the whole zoning map. Come back, start through the process here, and have that discussion just on that item. We can do that also. It would take 2 to 3 extra months. So that's again up to the planning commission if you want to deal with it right then.
One more question, I'm sorry.
Yes, go
I didn't mean to
ahead.
hijack the
Yeah.
conversation, but the question, does the city, I appreciate Nick Banda's view, you bought the wrong building.
Yep.
But for items 1, 2, and 3, does the city have a position as to what it would recommend? Are you prepared to share that?
Sure. So it's not you bought the wrong building, it's have the zoning ordinance changed. Make sure that before we go through all that work, that you look at your site, that particular site. It's a special project also.
Nope.
No, it's not a
Nope.
special project. We did that on
Nope.
purpose. We didn't want
Nope.
that. So make sure that you have enough parking that you can put on your site, because parking is now 11,500 a space. And when they have to calculate tens of thousands of feet or however many thousands.
$1,000 a
$1,000
space. It's $1,000 a
No,
space.
no. You can't buy parking. You have to have provided, there's no place to buy parking on South Street.
Oh.
So it can't be that. They have to create.
To create,
That's
to
construction
build.
costs.
Construction costs,
Yes,
okay,
right.
thank
So
you.
it could cost them, if they can even do it, and then when they, and we told them this, if you trigger a new parking lot, then you trigger underground water storage. All the laws that come in from Eagle now are taken out of our hands, so it's gonna get a normal review. If the space is small enough where they need 10 spaces, maybe they can do it with surface parking. Vidya and I have gone through it many times. I'm trying to find a way to use surface drain off, et cetera, but I don't know what the scope is. If they're talking about a 10,000 square foot building that's right now parking at 1 to 1,700 square feet, going to 1 to 200, that's 8.5 times more parking they need. They can say they don't need it, but the ordinance says retail is retail, industrial is industrial, warehouse is warehouse. So again, all that was laid out for when they bought it.
It's a
So
warehouse with an accessory
it's,
use.
yeah, so we want
Alright.
you to know all of that before you make your
I
decision.
appreciate that, thank you very much.
We're not against this. I would love if they can work it out, but we have to follow the rules.
I get it, I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Anything further? Commissioner Clausen?
How do we define, or maybe this is an offline conversation, how do we define special project? Because some of the zones that you just mentioned, most of them had special project, like Cheese Lady, the BP.
Yep.
So how do we define that?
Yeah,
Or
so
how do we
if you look at the
determine-
future land use map back in 22, and it actually went back all the way to the first one, there's little dotted lines around some of the districts, and those were, there's big areas of it. When we were at the joint meeting with Planning Commission and City Council, I remember John Jackson saying, you want to make this easier on yourselves? Make your whole city special, except special project. No city that we know of in Michigan has that clause. It was very forward-thinking that gave the planners and the city administration control, because there's still 17 items in the list that you have to meet that test to get a special project. You don't just get to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's, you have to meet those standards. It was too big a leap for all of us to say, then it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. And former Councilman Bavacqua that's what his mantra was. I get it. It's nice for you guys to be able to make that deal, but I don't know who's going to be sitting here, including himself. He said someday, and if somebody makes some really crazy judgments, the planning commission is not held accountable to the public. The city council is. So we changed the process so that the final say now to go to, for special permit is city council, which that's the right way to do it. So we have some pretty good safeguards in place right now that it would have to go through a strong test to meet that. But we actually narrowed down special projects areas. It's not as wide as it was back in, when I got here in 2009, that we've made them smaller, so. But there's still certain areas that make sense that you just can't get that underlying zoning right. So you'll have.
There's
that right.
criteria they have to meet.
Absolutely,
The
right.
property
You
has
can
to
look at
meet.
the
It's in the zoning
today.
ordinance.
Yep, there's a whole section of special projects.
And the ones that we've already designated have already met those.
That's
There's
correct.
been some kind of test.
Correct.
No, okay,
Correct.
Yes.
that makes sense.
Did I do okay video there? Is that about right?
Yes, the special projects are subject to our sustainability evaluation. That's what Nick was referring to. Any project that comes within the special projects boundary has to get evaluated with 20 indicators. They have to score 15 points or greater to even qualify as a special project. So there is a test and there is a standard for special projects. So even though they are within the boundaries, it still ensures that if the planning commission is going to grant and the city council is going to grant any deviation from the zoning standards, the project is contributing definite public benefit to the community as a whole. So.
And I always say one more thing. So Monday night, if anybody watched, I love Janice. She's a bulldog. She digs in, she does her homework. So she came to council and said, with all due respect, Nick, this takes one simple act. Right now, you, me, get to determine what's ancillary use in the existing building. She said, so at the golf shop, he sells clubs. Scuba gear place sells goggles. So we agreed, and that was deemed accessory to those products. So she said, you just have to say our selling of furniture is accessory. I can't do it. I looked at it. It's a furniture store then, and that's retail. And we can't take the chance of getting sued for all the people we've told you can't do direct retail down there. She understood that. So that's why we told her there's a process to go through to get it right and do it so we can all defend it. And she's willing to do that, so.
Yes, Mayor.
So perhaps it's a question for Vidya. So where in our zoning ordinances do we define accessory use?
It'll be in the definition section. It's in our Rochester zoning ordinance that is structured towards the end. There is an article that says definitions.
Okay.
All the definitions will be there for accessory uses. And accessory uses typically have to be the use that are subsidiary to the principal use itself. In most communities in an industrial district, you do not permit retail. It's just not the innate nature of industrial use, because then since commercial is more rent, like Nick says, it's more valuable, the land, your commercial enterprises will encroach more and more upon the industrial and ultimately eliminate all the industrial. And as it is, the proposed zoning map that you're going to adopt has consolidated all the industrial, taken it out from every part of the city and consolidated it only on the south side of South Street. So now if we start allowing commercial over there also, we will soon have no place for those people who truly do the industrial work anywhere to go. And it is legally bound on every community to provide for a lawful land use. We need to have room for every type of lawful land use. We cannot zone somebody out. So that would be my concern.
I just have one follow-up comment to that, though. We still have industrial on Woodward. That's north. That is not on South Street. No, it is gray on my map.
It's supposed to be residential.
So it's light industrial on this future land use map. One has the yellow box and the other does not. It is the site directly east of the Solaronic site and the site east of,
That's the car wash. There's
Car
the
wash.
gym and the.
yeah, the
and
gym.
and the
So
car
there
garage.
is some industrial in the northern section of town. We have not eliminated all industrial.
So those parcels, Commissioner Salvia, those are actually the city's DPW lot. The fact of its innate contamination and the way it is, the city had decided you did not want a designation called public facilities, because if ever the city puts it up for use, trying to rezone a public facility site and get it marketable is difficult. So those were left industrial because that's a city-owned DPW lot. If you look in that area, it's not like a private industrial enterprise. Those parcels are city-owned parcels for the city's DPW lot.
Well, I know one is a gym and one is a local club.
Actually, the gym, that part's the gym, the back part's the catering facility, which is allowed in that. The next one's a classic car storage place, which is only allowed in industrial. So their uses are there, rebuilt, and Beck and Rader chose not to push that out, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Bachman?
I think I'm missing some context on the Assistance League. Do you happen to know approximately when they purchased the building?
A year and a half ago.
Okay. And was it always their intention to do
Never.
retail? Or is this a
I'll
new
try to keep my
development?
cool. 16 different people came and tried to get us to interpret it differently every single time. They even wrote a letter that was inflammatory to, that's the right word, to Chief John and I and Brandy, saying, you guys had us put a firewall up so we could sell furniture. And we made them retract the letter because a firewall was because of the size of the space. Had nothing to do with that. So they've tried everywhere. They were told, please don't ever plan on selling there until some hot day they change the zoning ordinance. Never was an issue. I've negotiated signs with them, parking lot, everything. It's been a great relationship. And then now they don't like it. So I get that, and that's emotional, but they were very clear in writing all the way down. They knew what they were buying when they bought it.
Okay. Well, and that's what I'm trying to ascertain is was this their plan the whole time to do retail? Okay. But they were well aware of.
Yeah, and because they had that option, they would retail up top, pay for the property. It might take 2 trips. You'd have to go to the warehouse, look at the property, go out and make your deal down there so we can cover it, that it's not retail, then go pick it up at the warehouse. That's fine. That's like you do at Gardner or whatever was the one that went out of business, Art Van. You went to the store and then you might have to drive all the way over to M59 to pick it up if you wanted to pick it up yourself. Same difference. So we thought their model was pretty good. They have a showroom on Main Street. And I don't, maybe whatever their operations, I think they got a lot more furniture than they thought. And now they have to move it twice. And I understand that, but.
I just don't know. I'm just trying to figure out if we need to rewrite the zoning code, for their convenience and benefit, you know what I mean?
You'll make that determination.
Okay. Unless there's anything further, Commissioner Kinsey.
Yeah, I guess, Nick, is there possibly a fourth option, one that might blend e-commerce where they can go take a look at the furniture at their site and then purchase it electronically?
The answer is yes. So I think they're doing that, quite frankly. We told them as long as cash doesn't take exchange, you can't go down there and swipe your card or pay cash. That's retail to us. I mean, it's elementary, but that is retail. So absolutely they can do that. And I think they're doing that, and that's okay. Just make your transaction up there. But I think they just don't want people to have to go down there, then come back and then pay up here, and then go pick it up. I understand that, but that's what they knew when they bought it.
Maybe I'm missing something, but if they're already doing that, like purchasing via a computer and using their credit card,
So you couldn't do the transaction down there. On-site transactions of monetary payments cannot take place. That's retail. That's how we define it. And that has to be incidental to the use, just like swim goggles. You buy them, I guess you can, it's a swim school. Golf guy, golf studio has golf balls. And he's pushing it sometimes. So Bloomingdale, we found out that they went down there and were refinishing furniture, which is a great industrial use. And then they decided to start selling it out of there. Didn't know that. Assistance League folks turned them in, and we stopped them because we're trying to be consistent to everybody, so.
Okay. Video?
I think it's Jane.
It's Turner.
Okay, we're not to public comment yet, but we're going there. Unless there's anything further. Okay, public comment. Anybody from the audience have anything they'd like to bring up? Okay, none in the audience. Rose, I see a hand up.
She had her hand up, but, oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
So,
Hi, Jane Turner again.
hi, Jane.
Would you guys, if you want to save my questions, keep us updated on the major projects going on in Rochester? I'm glad it was brought about the south side of Clinton River, those two projects going on. I would like to know more about Rewald on University and especially Second and Elizabeth, the west side. What's going on there? If you give us updates, like even quarterly, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, typically, in the past, we've received updates from administration at this point in the meeting at miscellaneous. Maybe we did hear a little bit of that already
You did.
tonight.
So instead of that, I'll do you one better. The mayor demanded that twice a year, I go and update our website that's got every little project, every new tenant, and every big project with a narrative behind it. So that's on our city website, right on the front banner. It says what's going on in Rochester, Jane. If you go click on that, you'll know everything about every single thing that's going on in town. And I do it in January and June. Not much changes in between them for the lag time, but it's all there. And then I go in front of the DDA when they invite me, been here, been in front of city council, but, yeah, so I would suggest first you go look at that. You'll get all your answers.
Hopefully that's helpful. for you,
Okay,
Jane.
on that section, you're going to tell me every house that's being built, or are you going to tell me about the major project?
Major projects. We don't go over every house that's being built, but.
Okay, I'll check it out, thank you. But it would be nice to hear them at the planning commission where it all originated.
And I don't have
You
any
should give
problem
us
telling stories. I think you guys know that, so.
I know you don't, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Is that a second hand I see, Rose?
Nope, that was still hers.
Okay. Well, if that's it from public online, we're adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
I will call you tomorrow.